And a minister there, one of the advisors, told us a story. We get story time too. And the story, delivered by Leslie Mills, who is a UU seminary student, was about letting go. And it was sort of a tale of sorts of this individual who was searching for this vast truth and meaning. We've all heard stories like that. And traveling, and then realizing, oh, wait, it's with me. And he came to this bridge, and he walked across, and the story goes that there was this holy man, this monk, who came along and told this story of his own, of his struggles with providing service and helping others and balancing that with his own struggles. And then, very spontaneously and recklessly, he handed the man the rope around his robe, and he gave it to him, and he grabbed one end, and then he jumped over the edge of the bridge. And the man, of course, instinctively just held on, and so then the monk was hanging there, and the monk's an old man, and cannot on his own pull himself back up. And so for a large amount of time, they're talking back and forth about how to get him back up there. And finally this man realized, I don't have the strength to do this, especially now that I've held for so long. And the monk tells him, well, you need to figure out what you got to do. Because eventually, I'm going to fall either way. And that's where the story ends. Yep, I know it's suspenseful, but I don't have an answer for you. And that was sort of the point. And it was a story that had many of us a little confused. In the moment, some of us wept. I wept. This idea of letting go. Some of us got a little distracted, or because they weren't following. But all of us realized that this was a very important concept. Not just the letting go, this idea of having to give up, but also how you get there, how you go about getting there in the search for truth and meaning, or on the opposite end, and maybe the same, the balance within of self-care, of caring for our earth, our friends, our communities, and even taking on that role sometimes, whether it be in your workplace, from a pulpit, as a student. Afterwards, we're all given the opportunity to write a blog post about our experience there. And I'm going to read just a few excerpts from, just real quickly, of our experience there to give you an idea of how, in concise phrases, we articulated what we felt there and how it had built on these feelings that called us to be there and be in communities such as these. We wrote a notes in a little book that we got with like notes about our seminary experience, like a yearbook, I guess. You write, oh, it was nice seeing you, or see you next time, or you're such a great person. And some that were in mine, where you put your entire being into things. I figured out why your eyes are beautiful. You are light and love. And the things about these words is they hold as in some ways generic, although honest as they sound, a very deep truth that touches on who I am. That someone saw beauty in the eyes that I always think are much too dark, and that they could say light and love and it didn't sound cheesy at all. Another girl who was at the seminary program spoke of how adults often say, you have a lot of a potential, keep it up. That it's this untapped resource that over the years you're gonna get in there and you're gonna figure out what to do with it. And there's truth in that. And the way she finished her sermon was actually, no one here looks at you like that. No one here waits for you to meet their own standards. Instead, they look at you in loving anticipation. She articulated that the reason that she was able to make it up to that pulpit in that moment was because the friend sitting beside her had taken her hand and whispered, "It's going to be okay." She says that of all the sermons preached that morning, the words that preached the most to her were those. She also came out to 85 some strangers and an aunt of hers in that pulpit. Another girl chose to define God from the pulpit in the terms of science and the cosmos as an explanation of the fact that this idea of tearing everything apart, analyzing it in order to make herself feel better and to cope in this world was something she could do with reverence, with grace, as a ministry practice, and something we came to realize as within this process, and something I continue to work on, and I think we all do, is that when you feel called to something, when you have a career change, when a friend of yours or a family member is in need, the way that you practice ministry needs to be tied in there. Because ministry, just like the word love, it's an action word. It's a call. It asks us to do something, to practice something. It's not this goal high up in the sky that we have to search for the rest of our lives, because that would not be good. And so in conclusion, I would say that what I gathered from my experience at seminary, from my time growing up in this church, and continue to work on, to practice, is unconditional love. Is that not just the joy, but the pain or the confusion that I have within me is how I can light the metaphorical chalices within each of us and to keep them kindled. And also that the best way for me, and as I have seen in others, to continue to do this hard work, this fun work at times, this scary work at times, is to do so together in building beloved community and focusing on our principles, not just as a list, but as a call. Something to really ponder on, sure, and something to work on, to practice. So I thank you for helping me with that. And I'm so glad to be a part of exploring that with all of you. My last words are, as we hold space with one another, as we build and sustain beloved community, let us remember we are all human. We all make mistakes. We all have challenges, and we all have so much to give to one another. So each time you come to church, each time you go to work, the second you step outside these doors, remember that this community, the love that you feel wherever or however it may be, you can find in each and every person, including yourself. Thank you.